Ladies and gentlemen, once again, an evening of empowerment. And here we are with Ground Zero Season 2 in episode number 2. The guest we are having today is a person who probably takes the word impossible as lightly as anyone should actually do. It's said it always seems impossible until it's done. And the gentleman whom we have today with us as our guest does exactly that. And you will see why I say that. With that, I just don't want to waste more time. I would like to bring the energy straight away into the show by welcoming our guest today, Vinod Chakravarti. Vinod, very good evening and welcome.
Hey Alan, very good evening to you and many congratulations to you for I understand that tomorrow is the first anniversary for Ground Zero Everyday Leaders. It's been very inspiring seeing most of your I haven't seen all of your videos, but I've seen many of your videos. And yeah, you're doing a wonderful job by inspiring more and more everyday leaders by contacting everyday leaders.
Thank you so much. The show is all about that, Vinod. It's all about trying to bring in friends whom I've known personally, who have gone out there and done so much from their own learnings. And at the end of the day, exactly the way you have groomed your life made it happen. And what it's done is it's really impacting the youth around, generating a lot of energy around the people around. And I think that's exactly what you are doing today, right? You kind of changed your stream of the flow of your river in your life to something which you thought was more meaningful. So I'm looking forward to a great evening and many more such guests such as you who can continue empowering the world through this show, which is meant for youth and people who require the nurturing, right? So thank you very much for joining us today.
My pleasure, and thanks for having me here.
Hey, Vinod, I start off the show with typically asking people about their early life. And I would like to ask you the same question because, that's how the whole genealogy, if I may, starts, right? The whole process of someone's success starts.
Well, Alan, my early life started in the town of Dharwad, a town that you are also quite close to with your family. And basically, Dharwada actually stands for Dwaravada. So Dwaravada means the town which opens doors. So basically, it is the town which opens the doors from the Malenadu to the Western Ghats. That's how the name Dwaravada came. And I'm the kind of lovely teachers I had in that particular town where I've grown up, the kind of upbringing that the town has given me, I would only say that the town has opened the doors of my mind like never before, right during childhood, and that's what I carry with me. All the memories of good old Dharwad and the value of education system that the town has provided to me.
It brings a lot of memories when I think about it as well. And I've spoken about it to a couple of my previous guests who have been from the same place. And it's amazing. I call it the Chota Mahabaleshwar of Karnataka. And it gives so much of peace and energy that one requires, and especially for people who dwell in major cities or metro cities. And once you go back for holidays, you actually can feel that in that particular place. Dharwad, indeed, a place with an open door, always welcoming you. Vinod, tell us a little bit more about your professional life. I mean, I know Dharwad. I've known people who have taken Dharwad as their place of education. I've seen people coming from far off places. I remember during the early days, there were a lot of people from Iran, people from Africa, and of course from the neighboring state of Goa, and also far off states from the north. It is an educational hub, right? And then and I'm sure people who are actually dwelling in Dharwad have recognized that. And we have lots of people who have flourished out of education from the place itself. It comes with a lot of rich culture background. And I'm always enticed to know more about how what has influenced you guys to make the decision that you all have made to choose a particular career when it comes to education? So please shed a little bit of light on that.
That would be a little difficult for me to answer because I never chose. Right, I just went with the flow, and
Right.
whenever I came across a couple of paths, and where I had to choose one, to a large extent, I've just gone with what my heart says. Right, so
Sure.
there has not been much of conscious choice that I've done. Probably you can just say that I've listened to my inner conscience and let it flow. Simple as that. Yeah. So putting that in terms of if a professional career path, you can call me a jack of all and master of none. Right. So initially, I have done my graduation in hotel administration, and then the next in a couple of years, I was in the hotel industry, of course.
Mhm.
Subsequently, I moved into ICICI Limited. I'm talking of the days before the reverse merger with ICICI Bank.
Right.
And from there, uh, my career went on for a good 20 years within the BFSI industry, right from intercorporate deposits to stockbroking to mutual funds,
Mhm.
finally getting into heading operations and sales for Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, which was my last one of my last uh, corporate roles. Right?
Assignment. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, subsequently, in middle age, they say usually a man goes crazy during his middle age. So once I crossed 40, maybe at the age of 43, 44, is when I said, okay, let's hang our boots and get into some kind of a business, basically, do something with. Fortunately, I was able to join one of my colleagues who is the founder and the co-founder of a business. And basically, our idea was that we don't just do any business. We have to do a business which will have a positive social impact for the next generation. The impact need not be directly in terms of impacting them on a personality basis. It can be in
Mm.
terms of creating a better environment. It can be reducing carbon footprint. It can be having healthier food to eat
Sure.
without traveling much. So it could be uh, any possibilities. So within that, we froze on certain concepts and started on our journey on the business front as such.
Mhm.
Right? Or you can call it social entrepreneurship. So we are entrepreneurs with a mindset to create a social impact.
Right.
Right? So that has been the journey so far, and let's say where God Almighty takes it further.
It is there is something about this mid 40 crisis, isn't it? Whether you call it crisis or you call it something different,
Yeah.
the whole scenario is people end up making some very major decisions in their life when you come to reach that point.
Right.
And certainly what you said, it makes a lot of sense. Social entrepreneurship is something which is so dearly required in today's world, and we've learned our lessons from the pandemic, and we know how important it certainly is. And you chose hydroponics as the core of your, or the essence of your business.
Right. So basically, Alan, hydro obviously stands for water, right? Ponics stands for labor. So
Right.
making water work to grow your plants. That's hydroponics. Simple.
You mentioned that you had a purpose to kind of empower through your business, whatever business you choose to.
Right.
So, how did hydroponics come into play? I mean, did it come naturally or did it come by accident?
Well, I mean, I believe that nothing comes naturally, and I also believe that nothing comes by accident. So there's someone sitting up there, while we may think that we are doing all the actions. There's someone over there,
True.
making whatever we do, and then making things happen, right? So we always need to be grounded to that reality and that fact, and
Sure.
within that, understand that we have to explore because we are blind to what is going to happen. So in that we put effort, and that is where we feel that we are making things happen. So in that aspect, yes, I mean, while the broader idea of social entrepreneurship was there, so even before freezing on this, I had thought of a couple of other ideas. It was about, I've traveled across Karnataka uh, to villages, before starting the business. I've traveled across Karnataka to villages looking at people with rare handicraft uh, skills. The idea was, can I create a platform where their talents can be showcased and their products can be sold, where they earn a better revenue for a better life for themselves. So a couple of things that I was always looking at. So in the process, once when I was you know making my son get into his school bus, I heard a couple of ladies, mothers who were there discussing among themselves, saying, "What are we doing nowadays? For whatever we spend, we are only feeding our children with poison as food. So, what kind of health are they going to have next 10, 15 years down the line with this kind of pesticide-laden food that we are giving them, cooking and giving them?" So that drove a point to my mind, and I started exploring areas where I could look at this, from a business angle also. So
Right.
in the process, I met one of my dear friends today. His name is Manikandan Pattabhiram, and he was the founder of a company called Ghee Gardener. And basically, he was a very passionate gardener right from the third standard.
Right.
His, right, and he has been writing blogs and encouraging people to get into farming and all that. So very, very inspiring person. He was so inspiring, and in one of his blogs I read about hydroponics.
Mhm.
Then I didn't know about hydroponics. Basically, I mean, I could understand organic farming, I could understand that pesticides are bad, but I didn't know what hydroponics is. And when I got in touch with him and realized, and what are the advantages in urban living, especially that hydroponics can provide, I got interested and thought, we can work together, or maybe I can be his supplier, take his products and introduce that and service people
Right.
in terms of growing healthy produce in their own homes, and at the same point of time saving some water, because here there is no water wasted in this particular mechanism. So with that idea, I approached him saying, let me be your apprentice and learn this, and probably I can be your dealer in North Bangalore. And that's how we started off. And then, yeah, when beyond a point, you connect with people beyond businesses, you connect with people more like your family, and that's what happened between us. And then one fine day, it was like, okay, forget it, let's form a company together and move it forward. So
Right.
the idea was, with his expertise and with whatever little support that I am able to provide from my side. So our idea is, of course, with the exception of last year due to the pandemic. But now we are setting up hydroponic farms both at the uh, hobby level as well as commercial scale across India. So,
That's
and yeah, we would have crossed approximately 1 lakh acres, 1 lakh square feet of commercial farms, and
right.
over 5,000 families are now experiencing hydroponic farming in their flats or balconies or terraces. So
Right.
that's what excites me, basically, right? And with Almighty's grace again, I believe that it's just the beginning. A lot, much more work to be done, so that
I'm sure. Sure.
many more families can enjoy pesticide-free greens in their own homes.
So, for the benefit of our viewers, hydroponics stands for growing a plant without soil,
Without soil, yes.
right? So, that's the whole fundamental thing here.
Hydroponics can never replace growing in soil. We
Right.
must understand that. Now, having said that, what happens is when you feed, when you grow organically, right? Hydroponics is not an organic way of growing, first of all, but I'll come to that later. When you grow plants organically, you never feed the plants, you
Mhm.
feed the soil, right?
Yeah,
You enrich the soil,
true.
right? So, and the soil by itself is an inert media, but the soil is a home to a whole lot of beneficial microbes, which, for example, if I put cow dung to enrich the soil, right? Now, the plant will never understand cow dung, but the beneficial microbes which are present in the soil, they understand cow dung and they start digesting it. So from cow dung you
Right.
get ammonia, from ammonia you get nitrogen, from nitrogen you get the nitrite ions. Then the plant
Mhm.
will understand, oh, nitrite ion is what I need, and that is what the plant takes, right?
Right.
So if I am growing without soil, I can directly use a salt like calcium nitrate and produce the same quantity of nitrite ion which the plant will understand and take. But the major difference is I should never use a, fertilizer directly in soil, because while
Mhm.
in the right quantity it may be good for the plant, it is toxic to the soil,
Right. Right.
right? So whenever we grow anything on soil, it is better to completely make it natural and stick to the organic way of growing.
Right.
Now, why soilless farming? For the very simple reason that when it comes to urban living, right, the way we live today, the way we build the buildings, the way we have tarred the roads, the way we have actually abused the soil in and around the cities, it becomes quite struggling for people to grow when the soil quality itself has gone low, right?
Mhm.
I mean, in Bangalore, you need to dig around 1,200 feet deep. Only then you will get some bore water. Whereas
Absolutely.
earlier it used to be around 200 feet or maybe 50 feet, 100 feet. You used to get lovely water, right?
Right.
So in this case, you need to look at two things. The way we are living itself is not natural. So you go for some alternates which will be closest to the natural way of growing. So if organic farming is scale 10 out of 10, I would put hydroponic farming as 9 out of 10,
Right.
right?
Right.
But growing in soil using fertilizers, I'll put that as 2 out of 10 or 3 out of 10, right?
Right. Right.
That's where the difference lies.
Right. 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 No, thanks for clarifying that. It brings in a lot of there's a lot of science behind it. And
Absolutely.
that's exactly my next question, Vinod. I mean, how accepting are people to this what do you say, to this principle or theory of hydroponics?
So globally, it's quite a controversial subject, uh, because what I've seen, people tend to take two extreme stands, right?
Right.
So one is, oh, this is, I have seen people advocate hydroponics like anything. No, this is the future. This is the only way to grow. There is no other alternative, is one side.
Right.
And the other side, you have people who say that, hey, come on, you're still feeding it chemicals. So this is not it. So this is going to uh, not be sustainable. So you have both extremes. The idea is, it's how I look at it is, basically we have to understand that if someone is commuting every day by car,
Mhm.
that person is already abusing the environment every time they are using their vehicle,
Sure.
right? So one cannot be doing something which is unnatural and say, I'll do something else natural. We have come to such a state that if all of us have to completely live our life by using only organically produced food,
Right.
can you imagine the kind of deforestation which is going to happen in order to accommodate so much of organically produced food,
Absolutely.
right?
Mhm.
And is that not going to increase the carbon footprint? It's a vicious circle. So either
Yes, it
we live
is.
in a
Yeah.
vicious circle or we try and make it a virtuous circle. The
Right.
option lies with us.
Right. Right.
And because of the increase in population, there's so much of pressure, especially to grow things like paddy or wheat and millets and all these staples.
Yeah.
right? Which naturally grow the best in soil. So
Right.
the idea is you can, like I was sharing earlier, growing with mother soil is the best. But when there is a demand that more and more, fertile soil is required for these kind of plants, why can't we just shift at least growing our palak or amaranthus or your coriander or your daily greens that we need? Why can't we just grow it in our own homes and use it in our own home? So it's actually farm to harvest. If we can
Yes.
grow it in our own home and use it in our own home. So look at zero loss of nutrition in terms of either transportation or storing in the fridge, right? Automatically the children's health improve. And since you're not transporting the produce from somewhere else, obviously you're reducing the carbon footprint, right?
Right.
There's no
Right.
logistics involved. And the fourth point I would like to add is, when, for example, if I grow a cucumber or a tomato at home, and the child is involved right from sowing the seed to seeing the plant grow on a daily basis, and then the child enjoys the fruit of its labor, right? No pun intended again.
Fantastic.
When the child enjoys that, imagine the value for food that the child is going to develop.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Vis-a-vis a child which only says parents paying money, taking some produce, coming home, and then the child is, where do I get it from? The market. So the child has to experience the labor of love which goes for producing the food.
Fantastic. No, we see so much of meaning in what this whole process and the cycle is, and it makes a lot of sense that there is no substitute for soil farming for products which require soil farming, but yet for the little salads you want at home, why not, right? And I suspect most of the salad ingredients can be grown. You mentioned cucumber. I imagine the lettuce can also be grown, right? So any leafy vegetables can be grown at home using the hydroponics method. And certainly, and the point you make about education, something which is so far from being accessible to children when it comes to the metros in particular, when they cannot even access and even imagine being on a farm, having it on a balcony and then right. seeing a product grow, or rather seeing food grow, is quite amazing. And I think that makes a lot of sense when it comes to giving back in what your entrepreneurship does to the society. Now, has the pandemic really facilitated the process of, rather, let's say, I'm sure people have learned more about the value of nature, and health and good health post-pandemic. And I'm sure hydroponics can contribute a lot to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So one is, I have seen a lot of, I would put it this way. There are two ways in which people will show more interest into farming. Hydroponics, let's take that as part of farming, but the larger idea is about home farming, right? When it comes to people showing interest. So again, once they get into that, they can choose, I'll do it hydroponically or I'll do it conventionally. All that is fine. But as long as they get the intention of growing at home and giving pesticide free, that is the larger picture, right? So there are two ways. One is people out of their interest, out of their passion, and out of awareness for providing healthy food, they start doing this, which was happening before the pandemic also.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the percentage might have been less, but it was happening. Not that it wasn't.
Indeed.
Yeah. With the pandemic, some people have approached with the interest to do that, with the same kind of awareness, with more of enthusiasm and urgency. But there is another set of people who have come during the pandemic more out of fear.
Right.
The fear that, okay, if I eat outside, it may not be the right one. But the second category, over a period of time, once they experience the taste, not just the health portion, the taste and the appeal, like even before you eat your food I'm sure you taste it with your eyes, right?
Right.
So when you see a fresh produce in your own
Right.
home, you see that produce and you compare it with what you see in a shop,
Sure.
you offload. So
Sure.
that is the process when people who have got into home farming out of fear will also graduate into doing home farming out of passion.
Right.
But finally, what is sustainable is home farming in any matter is sustainable only when parents do it out of passion,
Sure.
right? Not just parents, involve the children, involve the family. It should be a family activity as much as eating on the dining table.
It's an amazing, amazing hobby, if I may, to pick up. Hydroponics seems like something which can substitute so many hobbies out there, if not all. Vinod, a little bit of drift from where we are, from the subject that we've been talking about so
Right.
far. And I relate it somehow to where, how people are nurtured as they go progress in their lives also.
Absolutely.
There must be somebody who influences such thoughts. It may not be hydroponics, or it may not be the business you're doing today, but
Right.
the whole mental attitude, the growth mindset, the mindset that you have towards life should have been engraved in you through a role model. And I would like to know if you have one.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, we all have role models.
Sure.
And I believe that it can never be one, right? It's always multiple.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure you, I, and all your viewers will agree. Whenever we think of doing some action or we think of taking some action, then we think of a person who is a role model relevant to that action, right? So as and when we think about any new initiatives, we think of doing something new, we still look at inspiration, right? And obviously, when we look at inspiration, we look at someone who has done something, if not necessarily in that particular field, the efforts that they have put in to follow, nurture, and achieve their passion, which inspires us to do our own, right?
Right.
So, and role models need not always be an individual. Role models can also be situations.
True. Well said.
Right. So, for example, I'll tell you, during my childhood, when we used to, quite often weekends, we used to bicycle from Dharwad to Haliyad and come back. Okay. Some of my cousins and friends, bicycle. That's it. Morning, breakfast at home, take your bicycle, go. And those were not the days when people could contact us anytime on cell phones and say,
True.
"Hey, where come back home."
Absolutely.
I have a bother for time.
Yeah.
And just we used to stop over there, see some nearly or jamun trees, stop there, eat them, go ahead. And we used to see fresh beans being grown, fresh greens being grown, just side of the road. Okay. And when we used to go there, farmers used to be there. We used to speak to them, just plug them from the farm, eat. And the farmers never said anything. They are the most generous people in this whole world, I must say.
Absolutely.
Right. And they used to happily feed us and we used to eat. Right. We don't know them. They don't know us. But we used to eat over there, right on the roadside, right, plucking from the plants and move on with our journey and come back home. Now, that is a life, unfortunately, today, most of our children will never see. Right. So for me, those farmers, that situation where I could enjoy those privileges, that is also my role model.
Amazing. Amazing.
Right?
Amazing. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Well, no, I think this is the first time I'm kind of hearing this, that situations can also be your role model. And I think you presented a very beautiful example. And having your upbringing in a country with having majority of its kind of stakeholders who are into farming,
Right.
is I think is a matter of a lot of pride for us Indians to have been growing in this country. You see farms all around, you see nature all around, but at the same time, we need to be mindful of the destruction that's happening these days. and leading towards so much of catastrophe, including climate change.
Absolutely.
And that is something that needs a lot of education going forward. And I think our focus needs to be primarily in these critical, sensitive, yet very important issues such as climate change. And and I think we all need to contribute in our own ways. Uh, I think you just spoke about one adventure, and that is cycling. Is there any other adventure you would want to do or you have in your bucket list, Vinod?
Oh yeah, of course. To quote Brian Adams, I'm also 18 till I die. At least always will be full. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Probably, of course, the wishes keep changing. Probably one of the wishes also to travel to more and more cultures. I mean, I wouldn't say traveling across the world to more and more countries. I want to travel the world to more and more cultures, understand more about how we human beings have evolved at various geographical locations.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's a commonality, and by interacting with more and more cultures, I want to experience the commonality, and through that commonality, experience my closeness to the one divine over there.
Right.
That is one adventure that I'm looking forward to.
Right,
Maybe next 15 years, 20 years, 10 years, whatever.
Right. Well, how much we miss traveling in this present times, and I'm really hoping that things lighten up when it comes to that. And yes, I mean there's so much to experience out there when it comes to culture, and you got it right. I mean, definitely one of my all-time favorite is to experience new culture and exploring the world. You can never have enough of it. And I think we both, in that sense, are driving the same route. Vinod, I've taken a passion in training and development, or rather learning and development. And also, as you would agree, it it plays a very important role when it comes to empowering the youth. And in your field, how do you see learning and development, or training and development for that matter? And that could be in different forms, not necessarily soft skills, right? There's also training in your own way of the specialization that you do. Absolutely. How important is training in your field?
Well, I would say that, whether someone would like to write, build, let's take authors, for example, right?
Yeah.
Someone would like to build a career or passion by writing novels. Someone else would like to do it by writing plays. Someone else would like to do it with poetry, maybe sonnets or maybe limericks, humor, whatever. So the paths may be different, but what is common to all of them is the proper foundation of grammar, proper foundation of the language, and then you go and create whatever you want to, right? So irrespective of the field that someone chooses, having the proper foundation is very, very important. So even hydroponics is not an exception. Anyone who would like to do it either for a hobby purpose, or we've had people who've done it for charitable purposes. We've had people who have done it for commercial purposes.
Right.
So commonalities, you still need to, even before talking of hydroponics, you need to understand plants, right? Because finally you're growing plants. So the basic foundation in terms of training, in terms of, let me try and avoid using jargons over here, but in terms of plant care, plant maintenance, continuous production of saplings, taking care of them till harvest, the logistics of the harvest until it reaches your table. So these things are all quite common, irrespective of the approach towards the end of the business or hobby that one wants to take it to.
Right.
So obviously, the having the foundation, not only in terms of technical knowledge, but the purpose, right? The purpose behind getting into it, as well as, I would say, like with any other business, connecting with God. The very fact that if I've set up a farm, and I have produced great yield, I must understand that I did not create that seed. I did not do anything which genetically or through the magic of nature, miracle of nature, made that seed become that plant which has yielded a fruit, which again will give seeds. All I did was support the process by doing certain things which are right for the plant, right?
Right.
So I have never created the business. I'm only a catalyst in the business.
Right. Right. No, well said. Well said.
Right. So if
Mhm.
that is for me one of the foundation, which is for me part of the training,
Right.
right?
Right.
The mindset, once that is very clear of what we are doing it, then the science behind it or the process behind it and the labor behind it, everything else is secondary.
True. And do you see a lot of enthusiasm from the younger generation in this field?
Oh yes, I do. I've seen a couple of fresh IIM graduates come to me and saying, "Sir, we would like to start off with hydroponic farming, freshly out of IIM, right?"
Fantastic.
And I've had students come from IIT, and they'd like to explore this.
Right.
Not just right now during the pandemic, but even slightly earlier also. But what I've seen is a lot of youngsters, they are inclined to bringing about some kind of environmental change,
Right. Right.
right? And environmental change, not just they understand it's not just about planting trees and growing trees. It's
Mhm.
also about what we are consuming and reducing the carbon footprint in the logistics in what we are consuming.
Right.
So that holistic picture is, hats off. The younger generation thinks much ahead of us.
Well, that's immensely desirable to hear of such sort of mentality that's growing among our younger generation, and I think we can only help them by providing our experience and expertise and showering upon them our blessings. And hopefully, as you rightly said, the whole idea to reduce carbon footprint in today's earth or today's world is of utmost necessity. So, Vinod, you spoke about hydroponics being one of your majors now, and we know, or rather, I know from the little research I've done about you that you enjoy baking as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Please tell us about it.
Okay, so on a lighter side, if I have to put it, when you grow your own produce, right, and you get it home, it better be cooked well, right? And who will you
you,
trust?
you bet. Yes.
Who will you
Yes.
trust more than yourself?
Oh, of course. Of course.
My wife is going to beat me after she sees this. Anyway, that was on the lighter side. But yeah, thankfully, I would say, right from my tender age, right? Okay, I'll give you a very small instance. My grandmother, okay, when she used to cook in the evenings, I used to be there almost every weekend in Hubli in their home. She used to make me come over there, at the age of 5 or maybe lesser than that. I used to cut cucumbers or something, then put the butter on the bread. So I was involved very much in preparing or the mise en place of the cooking part, right? And once my grandfather jokingly said, "Are you going to make a girl out of him?" Okay. So immediately my grandmother's response was, "He is not going to be a boy. He'll grow up to be a human."
Right.
Okay. So it's somewhere she ensured that I do not differentiate between what boys do at home or what girls do at home. I
Sure.
mean, I'm talking of in the 70s. So
Yeah.
I'm very much grateful to her. And that's the way it's been at home. So my wife cooks wonderful food. I do a little bit actually, but baking is something that I got interested in more for the simple reason that the amount of maida and baking powder and all those things which are preservatives which are used when it comes to commercial bakes, right?
Mm.
And obviously they tastes so well that kids would love to have it on a regular basis.
Right.
By chance, I came across one more wonderful leader, Simran Oberoi Multani. So she runs a community called Oh Wonderful Mom Bakers Community, which is now, I think so, close to 50,000 uh, home healthy bakers in that community across
Right.
10 countries, right? And I'm actually honored that she took me into that group where so many experts over there, and they are so generous with their recipes
Right.
that
Right.
you're bound to, it's all given to you on a platter. You're bound to come home. You're bound to bake. You're bound to, give
Right.
it. I mean, who doesn't want to give healthy bakes to your children, right?
Sure.
So, but yeah, so the selflessness with which she has started that community, and the selflessness with which she propagates, right? The long term health impact of having maida regularly or refined sugar regularly. So all the healthy bakes that we do has zero maida, zero refined sugar, right? And that's where it starts. And then it goes into no artificial coloring, no artificial essence, etc., etc. And I'm thankful to her that she's allowed her dad to be part of the Mom Bakers group.
Right. And I'm sure it kind of inspires people around you as well, including your children.
Yeah, absolutely does.
And it has done it to your son as well.
Oh, very much. I mean, he definitely does, enjoy a little bit of cooking and baking. He cooks more with his mom, but I mean, it's again, right? I mean, I guess whatever my grandmother put into me, it just continues in the family. And today, I think with most of our families, right, that's the way we are bringing up our children. There's
Absolutely.
no difference between what mom does and dad does.
Yeah. No, that's perfectly said, and that's how it should be. Well, Vinod, I would have loved to continue talking to you, but for time, we have to end the show here. More importantly, what I've learned and the takeaway I've had today is, in order to attain the impossible, one must attempt the absurd. And sometimes it comes out the best in form of food, something which we all desire for, right? And to have the best of food, and most importantly, the healthiest food is something which is very, very kind of, what do you say, a moment of treasure, so as to say. And well, thank you so much for enriching us today through this session, Vinod.
I guess you have already summed up well, Alan. So that is our food for thought for today's session.
Yes, wonderful.
Thank you for having me on your show. And I'm doubly honored because you made this your anniversary recording. So
yes,
thank you so much. And my best wishes to all your viewers and the entire community.
Well, our best wishes to you, Vinod. Keep enriching the world around you, and you have already in a journey of empowering people. And I think that decision that you made 5 years ago of kind of getting into hydroponics and this new mission of yours to kind of get into the social entrepreneurship space is something very inspiring for many of us. And I hope there are many more Vinods out there who kind of contribute through their. It just requires a seed, isn't it? It just requires that one seed that would cultivate so much of goodness around you. And thank you for sharing that goodness to the people around you. Keep doing that forever. God bless, Vinod.
Thank you, Alan.
And so there you go. The journey just continues, even with more learnings in our lives. Tonight was an extraordinary evening knowing more about hydroponics. The art of gardening without soil has to gain popularity going forward, surely. In the absence of soil, water goes to work providing nutrients, hydration, and oxygen to plant life. hydroponics continues to be a timeless and dynamic method of water conservation and crop production. It's social entrepreneurs such as Vinod Chakravarti who bring about the change in society, in the mindset of the young. If one wants to call it the need of the hour, yes, that is right. Not just in health, commercially too, hydroponics farming yields much more. But let us remember, this is just a supplement source of soil farming, which due to human distractions has had to rely on sister technologies. Today's guest of Ground Zero Everyday Leader, Vinod Chakravarti, has educated us through his leadership and most importantly, his passionate goals to strive to serve the society better. Our best wishes to Vinod Chakravarti and his family.